I'm a fish bro, and I'm here to welcome you to a brand new fish bro video. Here we have a Trial of the Crusader 25-man guide on how to do the raid with the mechanics and strategies explained. Before we begin, if you enjoy my content, and if you're new to this channel, make sure to check out other videos of mine if you have not before, but if you have seen my other videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button, the like button, hit the bell icon so you know when other videos are dropping, and share my content with other people like this video. Share it with people who can definitely learn how to do the raid so you don't have to deal with noobs in your raids at all time. Thank you, and let's move on to the video. So here we have Gormok the Impaler. So Gormok the Impaler, bring the boss to the middle of the room as we have done right here. The boss is going to put a stacking dot on the tanks. This is the impale that you see in the top right corner under my map. He's going to put the dot on the tank, so make sure to disarm him whenever you can, so he can't put the impaler bleed on the tanks. That does a ton of damage. He will use a whole lot of fire bombs if you have him in the middle of the room. He spreads out the fire bombs around the room and everybody can circle him. It's not as big of a deal, and that's about it for this fight. He's a tank and spank. He does a stacking bleed that you just taunt, and he's quite an easy boss. On heroic, he's not as easy. He does a lot of damage, but he's still pretty easy to understand. So moving on to Acid Maw and Dreadscale, I'm gonna read off a whole bunch of information on Acid Maw and Dreadscale before fast forwarding to them. Acid Maw has a paralyzing toxin that will literally paralyze anybody who gets it. This is a green aura on those players. Dreadscale has a molten spew that spews lava on anybody in front of the boss. One of the worms will cause a growing slime puddle under them that will damage everyone in the raid. Don't stand in it. Dreadscale puts a burning bile toxin, so just like Acid Moss shoots green toxic at everybody and causes them not to move, Dreadscale shoots an area of effect burning 2000 DPS toxin. It doesn't do that much damage, but if everybody has it, it's a lot of damage in an area of effect. So don't stand near anybody. If you get the toxin, just run away from the raid. You can stack the bosses for cleave damage, but because of the toxin that goes underneath them, that little green pole that you see on the screen right there, you don't want to always do that. If someone has the green aura on them, someone with the red aura needs to run to them to remove the paralyzing toxin, or else they won't be able to move for about 50 seconds of the raid. They will go burrow underground. One is able to move, the other is unable to move. It'll be stuck in place. That's why you can see Dreadscale can't move right now, but Acid Maw can. Dreadscale was able to move before that, and Acid Maw was unable to move. So they have this rotating like movement cycle. So it's kind of okay. It's fine. You can swap damage between them. You can cleave them to increase DPS. Really depends on how you want to kill the fight, but they're pretty easy once you get a grip on them. The usual strategy is to nuke Acid Maw first, and then kill Dreadscale. Keep them separated, and the guy tanking Dreadscale just stays off to the side. But the raid will always wipe here if they're dumb, or it's a pug, or something silly happens, because the guy tanking Acid Maw, or not Acid Maw, Dreadscale will end up not bringing the red aura to the guys who get hit with the green aura. They won't run to the other tank to remove it, and they'll be stuck in place, and they'll eventually die from like the dots or something that's killing them. And so that's why I recommend, if you're tanking Dreadscale like right now, right there, once he uses Molten Spew, you have the red aura, you just run through the raid, hit everybody with the green aura that's on them that can't move, you hit them, and then you run back to your position so nobody gets killed by the boss. Alright, so moving on to Ice Howl. Ice Howl is by far the most controversial boss ever. This boss is not only the easiest boss, but the easiest to mess up on out of any kind of boss. All you have to do is stack in the corner against the wall if you're a melee, so he doesn't slap you away while DPSing it. Tank it against the same wall. As you can see, I'm moving towards the wall, I hope, in the video. So yeah, I think I'm tanking him in the middle for some reason. This is bad tanking. You want to move towards the wall And then, yeah, so that's what I'm doing now. It took me a minute to get aggro, I guess. And now, if you're a melee, you want to tank him on the right side towards the wall, like I'm doing right here. I'm dragging him to a nook so I don't get knocked back, and then the other melee will stand on his left foot so they don't get knocked back either. And you could shift your camera around there. So yeah, he will knock you against the wall like this during the crash. He will charge somebody, and if he hits the player, he will enrage. All you gotta do is run left or right. You avoid getting hit. He hits the wall. Boom. He's taking 200% increased damage, or he's taking double damage. So I think it's 100% increased, 200% total damage. This is where you bloodlust. You kick his butt, and then you get back to tanking him against the wall. It is super easy, but if you mess up the crash mechanic, it will ruin your raid. If anyone gets hit by the crash, he'll enrage, he'll destroy your raid. You can use Hunter's Tranquilizing Shot to stop his enrage, but he'll still kill somebody if you're unlucky. And also, I cannot stress it enough how important avoiding that crash is. It can make or break the difference in killing the boss or not, especially if your group is weaker geared. If your tanks are weaker geared, they might get crushed. Really depends on how your group is set up. My group is overqualified for this, but this is just a video for you guys. So yeah, that's how you kill the Beasts of Northrend. There you have it. Those are the Beasts of Northrend. Pat yourself on the back and get ready for Jaraxxus. I'm gonna fast forward towards Jaraxxus now, and thank you for watching these. I don't think I told you enough. Don't you dare forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, like the video, and share it with your friends. While we are moving to Jaraxxus, you must do it. You must do it. There's no way you cannot support such a great video from the amazing Fish, bro. So here we have Jaraxxus. He's free loot for the most part, but he does have some mechanics that you should be aware of. He's got an empowered nether, or something similar to the name, but what it does is it gives him 100% increased damage, but it's like takeable. The mages can spell steal this, and they get 100% increased damage. So mages should be #1 damage on this fight, especially when they can use Bloodlust, and they could be doing a ton of damage. They can do like double damage for 20 seconds into the fight, making them like #1 damage for this fight. Legion Flames is another mechanic. Somebody will get Legion Flames. That is Powelgar in this raid. He will be causing little flames. It's called Blaze in Diablo 2. It's a little firewall that spawns underneath the player for as long as he has it. And if you're in melee range, it'll cause that fire to spawn underneath you, making you kill all your teammates. So that's not good. So yeah, don't stand there. Just run to the wall and run around in a circle, or run around in a circle of the boss. There's no like fear mechanics to cause any problems. There are extra mobs. If your group is well geared, then you need to kill the mobs with low priority. Just don't actually worry about them. You just take them and bring them anywhere. This is an achievement if you don't defeat the 2 Maidens of Anguish. They just stay there and then you ignore them and they don't do that much damage. But if you're at content, like if you're only doing this with Trial of the Crusader items or worse, then these mobs actually might pose a threat and they might actually do some damage, so you don't want to leave them alive. Some players will get a debuff that healers just need to heal to full health and they'll be fine. And outside of that, you just tank the mobs, deal with the Legion Flames, steal the buff so he doesn't do damage, and that's it. Easy peasy. So congratulations, you defeated Lord Mangupi, leader of the Little Ooze to Big Ooze, and you may now pat yourself on the back and proceed to the faction champions. Look at these mobs. They all want an autograph from the famous Fish, bro. But they cannot get an autograph because they hurt me too badly. I tell them over and over, like and subscribe, but they always forget. They always want to hurt me because they can never hit the like button and subscribe, making sure to hit the bell icon. I do not understand this. Why would you do that? You need to like the video and subscribe if you want an autograph. Stop chasing me down and stop trying to beat me up. What is wrong with you? Stupid mobs, man. Stupid mobs. They keep wanting to hurt me. Alright, so what we have coming up here is the end of Lord Jaraxxus fight. We're just looting the boss. I was figuring that instead of just cutting this out, I could leave the loot so you can see that we got solace and stuff. Here's a transition phase. What you're going to do for the faction champions is you're going to assign people to different roles and everything before beginning the fight. And for the faction champions, you need to make sure you know what NPCs you're fighting. And there is no disgrace in defeat. This is very important to understand because of that. Faction champs are by far the most unique, annoying, aggravating, time-consuming, weirdest, coolest, PvP-ish, PvE content like fight in Wrath of the Lich King. This is a painful fight, especially if your raid is a type of raid that spams 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. This fight requires everyone paying attention to what NPCs are nearby. If you're standing in the middle of the raid, you'll get spanked by the bosses. So yeah, paying attention to what NPCs are near, what spells they are casting, what kind of threat that player is to the enemy raid. Priests should be near the outer edges of the circle and spam casting mass dispel so fears do not affect your raid, or else they're going to get attacked by all the NPCs if they're standing in the middle of the raid. This will happen a lot to all the squishies that are doing too much damage, too much crowd control, like mages using polymorph and whatnot. Yeah, so set at least one player to interrupt all 3 healers on this fight. 1 player each healer, so that's 3 total players, not 1 for all 3. Like, that's ridiculous. So have 1 player interrupting each healer. Make sure you have 2 healers to interrupt the healers, which would be the best kind of raid, but sometimes you don't have that many interrupts or silences or whatnot. There's multiple variations of the NPCs you can fight, so that means that the healers' names and classes are going to be different every time. You're going to need to look this up on Wowpedia and whatnot. Place two players to interrupt the healers constantly for the best results. Have the rest of the raid use single target DPS on these targets first, these specific targets. First the rogue, focus the rogue. The rogue can use assassinate and whatnot and teleport around and backstab, whole bunch of huge burst cooldowns, so watch out for the rogue, then the warrior, and then the death knight, because those are the ones that do the most damage. You don't have to focus the death knights if your tanks are confident they can control him. As a death knight tank myself, I know I can death grip the death knight and I can just chains of ice him, so the death knight can't really move anywhere. It's a real big problem for him. The warrior can break CC, dash, and do all this crazy stuff, so you can't control the death or the warrior like you can the death knight. People can also kite out the death knight, so it's really not as big of a deal. The warrior has AoE blade storming and stuff, so both the warrior and the rogue are insanely important targets. Sometimes people prioritize the warrior over the rogue. I recommend the rogue first because of the burst cooldowns and stuff that the rogue has. Regardless, make sure to use the skull icon on any target in the raid and move that skull around in the raid as each target is taken out. Using all this information that I've already given you, please make sure to go back into the raid from before and see how we took out the bosses about 2 minutes ago, and you can see how we do it. This fight takes a significantly long time, especially as more players like fall in combat. So if you only have like 15 people surviving halfway through the fight, it can take forever, but sometimes it's just better to just go for it and take the win, even if it's going to take like a good 5-10 minutes instead of just retrying, because it can be aggravating. So that's what a lot of people do, but this fight is really aggravating, really annoying. On a regular server, it's just really long and boring, but on Lordaeron, so I don't know if you guys already know, but I play on Lordaeron. It's a buffed server that has increased damage values, health values, and everything of all the bosses. So you can see all these bosses have more health than normal. Maybe they don't. I don't know how Trial of Crusader is, but long story short, the fight takes forever. Just make sure to get through it. Make sure you're paying attention. Don't let all your players die. And also pay attention to where the rest of the raid is, because they can really do a number on you if all 10 of them are focusing the same squishy. You have 18,000 health, 10 mobs doing 2,000 damage per hit. That's a one shot if all of them target you. So make sure not to stand in the middle of the raid. Also, the rest of the raid should be using single target DPS, not area of effect. I think I've said this before, but I'm going to put some stress on it. You need to make sure you're doing that. If you're not, your DPS will have problems crowd controlling the enemies, and you won't be able to control the enemy raid as much. So instead of being able to single target the enemy and everybody's just using area of effect, people might die. The whole raid will be less organized, less single target focused. I feel like these are players because it's a PvP fight, but it's not because they're NPCs. So it's a really confusing fight on how to explain it, let alone do it. But yeah, so each of these targets need to be taken out one by one for the most efficient clearing. Especially the healers. If you can just do the fight without any healers on the enemy comp, that would be amazing, because then you wouldn't have to worry about anything. It's just tank and spank at that point. But no, they heal, so if you don't have enough damage, you'll never get through the fight. So that's why it's a real pain in the neck to have to CC and control the entire enemy raid, even though they're immune to taunts and whatnot and all that. In normal mode, they're not immune to taunts, but like taunts and CC wears off very quickly. Alright, so the twin Valkyr are next, and they're a pain in the neck with pugs. They have a mechanic that uses a special ability every 30 seconds. One of the abilities is that they blow up the raid if you don't swap colors, but if you do, then you get an empowerment bonus, meaning you deal double damage. They also have a shield and a heal mechanic where they shield for 900k health, and you're not able to interrupt them while the shield is up. When they begin casting Twins Pact, you'll see it soon, that means that you need to destroy the shield and interrupt the person or enemy target, whatever, that's casting Twins Pact, so you can avoid them healing 20% of their max health. That will cause a raid wipe, maybe if you don't have enough damage, or it'll just make the fight last so much longer, and you'll have to do 20% more damage. Simply drag both of them to the middle and separate the raid into white and black, and have all the players in your raid focus on damaging the opposite color target. Cleave the bosses as well to improve your DPS, and that's about it. You're gonna notice that there's glowing white balls and black balls around the room that will either do damage or they'll improve your damage if you're accepting. If you have the color that you need. So if you're white, you should be grabbing the white balls. If you're black, you should be grabbing the black balls. And the color of your own will improve your empowerment bonus, just like the explosion mechanic. It'll contribute towards it. Once you get the extra damage thing, it'll increase your DPS by 100%. So right here is Twins Pact. You can see how we do it. We destroy it, and then we interrupt it, and then we just destroy the boss. It's a little bit fast because we're speeding through it at 2x2 speed, but for the most part you can see the mechanics quite easily. You can see as the orbs are rotating around the room and stuff, and you're collecting them. I grabbed the boss and I moved him a little bit, but there we go. We killed the boss. We got a Death's Choice, which was nice this raid. That's one of the best things. Oh, yeah, that's another thing I'm going to explain. Yeah, what I did right there was I moved the boss away from the other boss so we can loot them without having a problem. If they're on top of each other, it can be a pain in the neck to be able to loot them. Right here we're doing loot distribution. I'm going to cut to Anubarak, and the next and last boss is Anubarak. So there you have it. You have the fish row right there. That's the guy in the middle of the room. You see him? He's a big badass. And now we have Anubarak. Anubarak is by far the most difficult encounter in this raid, in my opinion. I have not done this boss outside of Lordaeron for a while now, so maybe he's easier on a less difficult server. But anyways, moving on. There will be Icy Spheres falling from the sky. Ranged DPS need to shoot these down. The main tank will grab the boss and drag him onto the ice at all times, and the off tank will grab the two giant bugs, you can see them on screen now, and drag them to the ice as well to where the boss is, and DPS will cleave and focus down the first two mobs, the two bugs that spawn at their position. After the first two are dealt with, all the damage should be focused on the boss specifically. So the tank is taking a minute to move. There he is. Alright. Even when the next two big bugs are brought to the boss, you should still be focusing the boss at this point. Not right now. The first two bugs have spawned. This is where you kill the two bugs and then you kill the boss. The next two bugs you will ignore and you will focus the boss if you're a DPS. Then the boss will burrow underground, and that's when the rest of the DPS should tear up the remaining bugs and destroy the bugs that are coming in. So yeah, you defeat the next two bugs after the boss burrows, because that means you can't do any more damage to the boss. He's going to be underground for a minute, so you have a whole minute to destroy the two bugs. So at this point you just keep them on ice. If they're going to burrow underground, it's an interruptible spell right there. You can interrupt that. See what I did? I interrupted it. You can death grip them, typhoon, you can use mind freeze, any sort of silences and interrupts. You can interrupt it without any problems. There's no reason they should ever go underground unless people don't know what they're doing, aren't paying attention to their own skills and mechanics, and they're not high skilled players. But regardless of that, you're going to rinse and repeat this process until the end of phase 1, and then phase 2 will begin at 30%. So after phase 2 begins at 30%, a Nubarak will leech life from the players in the raid and heal himself for the health that he takes from you in your raid. Your healers should not heal players more than 50% of their health. Absolutely mandatory, not more than 50% of their health, preferably lower than that, as long as they can make sure that the players don't actually die. Over-healing the players will result in even increased healing on the boss. Like, you're going to be healing the boss personally, like you might as well just be healing the boss if you're healing players beyond that point. So yeah, don't overheal if you want to maintain the best possible chance at finishing the boss off. Due to the mechanic of burrow when a Nubarak goes underground, and because of Leeching Swarm's lifesteal effect, you want to make sure that you bloodlust to make sure you can reach phase 2 when he uses the lifestealing effect. What's it called? Leeching Swarm, sorry. I had a brain fart right there. Yeah, so once he uses Leeching Swarm, that's when you want to bloodlust. But my recommendation, and most players don't do this, is my recommendation is to use bloodlust before that, when he's about to go underground and burrow. If you know you can get just a little bit more damage and stop him from going underground, that'll give you a whole minute to DPS him in phase 3. Even without bloodlust, it's okay, because you have a whole extra minute to DPS the boss. Even though he's leeching life from you, it's not going to be that much in comparison to the extra damage you can pull out in a whole minute more. So that's why I recommend using bloodlust before phase 2 to be able to reach phase 2 without getting an extra burrow. A lot of groups have too little damage to get to phase 2 in time, so they end up having 3 burrows, I think it is, instead of 2, and then they don't have enough time to finish a Nubarak off, and he berserks. So yeah, make sure you use bloodlust to get to phase 2 and to get through phase 2, preferably. That's what you want to do. And then at that point you just continue and proceed as normal and finish the boss off. So there you have it. That's how you do Trial of the Crusader. You got through all the bosses, and I hope this guide was helpful to you. If you haven't already, even though my friend Fish Bro has been recommending you to do it, give a like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, and share the video with your guildies and friends who still need to learn the raid and the tactics, so they don't come to the raid looking like a bimbo. I'm very disheartened when I see players who still don't know the tactics in my raids, because I make these detailed and in-depth guides. So I would absolutely love for you guys to share my videos. Not so I can get more views and become a superstar on YouTube or something. I have a few hundred subs, and that's out of my reach, okay? I just want more people to become aware of the tactics and improve themselves at the game. So if you can help your friends get better, that would be great. And if they give me a couple views or whatnot, that's fine too. I don't really care about the views at this point. I just want people to improve their gameplay. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.